Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. My name is Vineet Malhotra. Just over a day after blasting off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, the NASA-SpaceX Crew 10 capsule arrived at the International Space Station. The mission is aimed at swapping crew members and bringing home two astronauts, Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams, who have been stranded aboard for nearly 9 months now. They went for 8 days. Originally, the two veteran astronauts and retired Navy test pilots were scheduled to return home months ago. However, a technical problem with the Boeing Starliner capsule that intended to ferry them back left NASA with no choice but to bring the spacecraft back to Earth empty, prolonging their stay in the orbit. Since then, Wilmore and Williams have continued their work aboard the ISS, participating in scientific experiments and performing routine maintenance with the station's other crew members. Now, the arrival of the Crew 10 astronauts marks the beginning of the long-awaited plan to bring Wilmore and Williams back to Earth. The two will strap into their own SpaceX capsule later this week, bringing an end to what has been an unexpected mission in orbit. However, Williams and Wilmore are likely to face other issues pertaining to their health upon return. Experts have said that they might have developed baby feet. This is a condition where an astronaut's feet become soft like a baby after spending too much time in space. It results in severe difficulties in walking and other daily chores. Additionally, they could also face loss in their bone density, something which is related to old age. NASA has said that by every passing month in space, the weight-bearing bone in human body becomes 1% less dense. The two astronauts are likely to experience a shrink in their blood volume, muscle atrophy and weakness, and immune system suppression as well. What does this mean and what can be anticipated? That's exactly what we will discuss in the next half an hour. Joining us on the show is Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman of Nephron Clinic. Mr. Ram Srivastava, former ISRO scientist, also joins us on the show. Last but not the least, Mr. P.K. Ghosh, space strategist, also with us on the broadcast. Well, thank you everyone for being a part of this conversation. Dr. Bagai, you know, from the layman's prognosis that I just read out in my monologue, what did you make of it? And obviously, you understand this more than anybody here as to how the human health suffers when you are locked up in space for more than 6 months. What is this likely to do to a person? And, you know, is this something which is recoverable? Is this something which you can gain back, especially the bone density part?
Good afternoon. So right at the offset, the human body is not designed to stay without gravity in space for such prolonged durations of time. And I think, if I'm not wrong, this particular lady, Sunita Williams, has spent close to 320 days plus in space. And this is impacting various body organs. So like what you mentioned, it impacts almost all body organs. Structurally, the bone and muscle, you lose approximately up to 20% in the first 11 days and then 1% ongoing every month. So you develop what we call as osteoporosis and osteopenia. That means your mineralization of your bone density decreases and your relaying of your calcium also decreases. So your bones become weaker, you lose a lot of muscle mass, and going forward, your brain, especially your ventricles, which carry a lot of fluid, they enlarge. You have cognitive dysfunction, psychological effects, risk of increased intracranial tension. In terms of cardiovascular, your heart, you can have hypotension, arrhythmias, that means abnormal heart rates. It's all in entry and exit from the Earth gravity, what we call as the G-force, that impacts the heart. Ophthalmic issues, you can develop cataracts, refractory errors, vestibular, that's the hearing disorders, hormonal dysfunction, kidney stones, gut dysfunctions. Very importantly, it alters your blood volume. So you can have hypotension on one side and fluid overload on the other, which can predispose long-term to effects of thromboembolic phenomena. We are still to understand what is the long-term effects of the outer space radiation with regards ongoing later on risk of cancers, but it does cause immune dysfunction. Apart from that, we've also learned through research studies that prolonged stay in space alters your genomic code. So it damages your DNA. What we call as telomere, the small little parts of your genes are elongated up to 10% extra. and there's a risk of infection, skin rashes. More importantly, is psychological. So I think she will require a lot of monitoring when she comes back. But I'm pretty sure that the U.S. Space scientists are extremely well geared to manage these things. But much will unfold in another few days. Over to you.
All right, Mr. Ram Srivastav, sir, your take on what's happened to Sunita Williams.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's prepped for that before they left. There is every eventuality that is covered. But now, if Elon Musk is planning to have a colony on Mars by 2031, there definitely have to be, recourses related to this kind of a situation.
Yeah, exactly. All these conditions are to be taken into care. The reasoning is very important. Ultimately, we have to go to the Mars and outer space. It will be a long journey for months together. In that particular case, the data obtained from the Sunita Williams and her partner will be very useful. One more important thing of which the scientists are worried because of the experiments done on animals. It has been found that after a long stay in space, zero gravity, particularly the edema in the brain takes very serious condition, but I'm sure this is not going to be the case with the Sunita Williams and Bill Moore. The reason is they were doing regular exercises. Particularly Sunita Williams was trained extraordinarily for the yogic exercises of the breathing and other exercises. So I am very much sure that she will be perfectly okay. These are the extreme conditions because loss of hearing, dizziness, nausea, getting faint. These are the extreme conditions of prolonged stay in zero gravity. But here in this particular case, there are so many possibilities. One is the SANS, that means the space flight associated with neuroocular syndrome. That is very serious if it is there, but the regular monitoring was being done over there, Bill Moore as well as Sunita Williams. So chances are very rare, but still we have to be prepared for that. And if such type of any side effects are taking place because of the fluid in the brain is developed much, in that particular case, how to treat, how to, first thing is to monitor them. They will have to keep it in quarantine. And obviously, baby feet is there. Not only this, there might be psychological conditions that can be easily changed. They are very strong. William was in Navy, so she was perfectly fit as far as health parameters are concerned, and Bill Moore is also there. But the important thing is at 2:47 a.m. of local time of Florida, they have joined the crew. 4 members of crew 10 has entered, and they are enjoying at this particular time when we are talking. And now, after 3 days, the 4th people will come of the crew 10 will come, and this 72nd mission is very successful. Undoubtedly, in the new crew, one Japanese astronaut is there, one Russian is there, and the crew 9 will come back, and this is already added there. So during this time, there are so many other parameters. One is very important, the effect of cosmic radiation, which is very nowadays a strong beam of cosmic radiation is coming from the unknown sources of the space. The effect is to be studied in detail, because if they are, as our expert has said, that genetic changes are possible, that means it may cause malignancy. So those all parameters are to be sorted out, and I'm sure that in the next mission, with the experience of long stay of Sunita Williams and Butch Milmore, will help SpaceX for its planning in the future Mars mission. And other thing is that ultimately we have to establish one colony over the moon, and that require very precise information regarding the impact of the solar radiation, because here our atmosphere is acting like the skin on the body. So very high radiation sometimes coming from the solar wind, they are not being affected. They are being stopped there by the magnetic field around the Earth. The magnetic field effect on the human body is very, very important. And on the moon, if we are going to develop colony, moon colony, then what will be the long-term effect of the solar radiation? That is also very important, and that can be very well studied in the future planning of the International Space Station. Undoubtedly, the life of the International Space Station is now limited. It is losing its orbit regularly. So the time has come, it is to be expired after some time, and the alternative are to be studied. Meanwhile, I'm very much sure the data of the Chinese space station will also be shared because of the international agreement as far as the use of space is concerned. And we are in India, we are also planning to have our own space station, and whatever information data sharing is done with Sunita Williams and Bill Moore, that will also be helpful for us, because we are very recently preparing ourselves and we are successful in docking and dedocking experiment.
Sir.
Of,
let me also open Mr. P.K. Ghosh into this conversation. Mr. Ghosh, obviously this is a testament to the planning that NASA has done, but now there is another player that's going to be stealing the limelight as well, and that's Elon Musk's SpaceX. They come aboard as some sort of a savior who's pulled these two astronauts out of potential and eventual death.
Yes. Firstly, let me just begin by saying, there's an inordinate focus on Sunita Williams coming back. Some people don't even know that there is another person known as Butch Wilmore who's also with her.
Yes,
and
we know that, sir. We know about Butch Wilmore. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are two of them who've been so-called, within quotes, stranded. Let me just take these items one by one. I will not dwell on the medical issues, but that has already been dealt by experts. But let me just mention, firstly, yes, you mentioned about Elon Musk and his SpaceX, and of course Boeing. Now, do you know that there was an inherent, initially, when the Boeing Spaceliner didn't work, there was a lot of problem within the NASA. In fact, there were a lot of verbal fights, as one would say, because NASA accused Boeing of not being safe enough. And I got to hear whatever was going on. And the underlying problem was that Boeing wouldn't take help from SpaceX. The reason being that the two had different contractual money. While Boeing had about 4.2 billion, SpaceX had only managed about 2.6 billion. So there was a competition. However, NASA made it clear to Boeing that their thing was not safe, and it came back alone. Now, since then, the media has been rife by saying that, look, they have been stranded. Of course they have been stranded. But the International Space Station is well stocked. And it is not for the first time that the astronauts have been there for extended periods of time in the International Space Station. For example, of course, the NASA will like to quote Scott Kelly and others, but the world record goes to Valery Polyakov of Roscosmos, who was there for 437 days. And Sunita herself has been there. This was a third trip. So it's not that she suddenly went for 7 days or 8 days and then didn't come back for 9 months. It's a bad thing, yes, but it was not something of such a big alarm. And let me also tell you, there was a talk, there was increasing talk that we'll get them back by another Falcon 9 and a Dragon space capsule. But NASA said no, please, it's not required. They will come back with a set crew. And that is why when Crew 9 went, they came with only 2 crew members, and these 2 crew were there. So the effort was to get them back. So again, the Trump administration is taking a lot of, saying kudos, saying that they have got them back. This was planned before. And let me assure you that the NASA doctors were monitoring in a very closely what was happening to. There were pictures of her, gaunt look, etc., etc. And I have also been on TV many times on this. That look, what's happening to Sunita Williams? Yes, she was being affected, but at no point of time did NASA think that it was something of an emergency. So now she's come back, as our respected doctor in the panel has mentioned. There's a host of things that could have happened to her, but the thing is that in most cases, these are retrievable. I would say 90 to 95, he can correct me on this, but 90 to 95%, including the damage that is done to the genes because of the radiation. The radiation is to the level of about 1,200 to 400 X-rays that you take, despite, of course, all the covering. Now, the other thing which I wanted to mention, Elon Musk has been very vocal about getting human beings to Mars. I was trying to sort of dig up in a very superficial way. I didn't do it as a very serious study. What will happen to human beings if they go to Mars? The medical aspects. They are planning something known as space hibernation. If they put the body to hibernate, probably these side effects will not be there. I don't know. I don't think it has been tested yet. So the technology, I don't know whether it exists or it will come so in future. But the effect on human beings for these large or long journeys is going to be tremendous. So as a space strategist, I am very, very circumspect about how soon will our technology be able to put a man on the Mars. It's okay for the moon, and we have sent people to the moon. We stop now. We are again going to send them with Artemis. But Mars is a different ball game altogether in the current level of technology.
Okay.
So these are facts which
those are interesting facts that you bring up, sir. In fact, I want to pick on Dr. Bagai's brain when it comes to hibernation as well. Is that something that's medically possible, Dr. Bagai? We've known hedgehogs and bats and certain wood frogs to go into hibernation is something which is, of course, very, very prevalent. We've all seen our share of Nat Geo as well. They freeze their bodily fluids and when the right time comes, they thaw it and they're back to life. Is that applicable on humans for the sake of space travel?
So far, there is no documented literature or research or science which actually proves that. They have even tried hypothermia, for example, in patients who require a level of critical medicine. But that's only for a very, very transient period of time. But prolonged hibernation in space is a realm which I don't think anyone on this planet can actually answer at the present day and time. But having said that, we never say never. So what science holds for us in another few years, we really don't know. But at the present moment, it is very, very unlikely to see something in the near future along these lines.
Okay, fair enough. Very, very uncertain at this point in time. Mr. Srivastav, what is your point of view, sir? when it comes to sending people to Mars and hibernating them? We have seen that in Ridley Scott and James Cameron movies, but can that become a reality?
Oh, we are working for that very seriously, and one important thing is that for a pretty long time, for the last 3 years, there has been experiments on the animal anatomy, physiology, and it is being very much sure that journey to Mars will be very much safer. It is not going to be so serious. The only thing is, because of the zero gravity, even the heart of the animals, which has been rotated, its size has changed because of the zero gravity. And the reason is, so we are much afraid about the shape, because the heart is in the oval shape, and now it has been expected that it may change the size to the circular type or the sphere type. So it's a long process. It's not so simple, and undoubtedly genetic coding is going to be affected, but we will be finding out the solution for that, and the Mars mission will be successful. All these parameters have taken a serious note of it, and we are having enough data. Animal studies has been done in the space station, and even today the new Crew 10 is also given some job of studying the anatomy, physiology of the animals, which are similar to our human body. Not exactly similar, but we are learning from them, and the prolonged stay in the space, what rate the deterioration in the bone density is taking place, that is now known very well, and there are certain techniques by which the bone density can be calcium doses are given, vitamin D3 is given. So there is complete science behind it. We need not worry about it, and I'm sure that the future mission of SpaceX to the Mars will be very successful. Not only of Mars, we in India, ISRO is also working very hard, very seriously in this direction, and the data obtained by them, the international collaboration, is going to help us a lot. And I'm very much hopeful that remedies of these changes in the human body will be maintained and they will be controlled. As far as the delay in the return of Sunita Williams and Bill Moore is concerned, there was a problem in the helium leaking of the module of the Crew 9. Crew 9 was because of some mechanical failure. And the helium leakage is responsible for the failure of their return after 8 days in June 2024.
All right, sir.
Now, all these studies are very important and useful for us. We have to take care
all
of
right, sir.
them.
All right. So we've run out of time, but I appreciate everybody who joined us, and thank you so much for your valuable perspective and insight into this development, which of course has brought joy to a lot of people who were hoping for these astronauts to return safe and sound. We take a short break. We'll be right back.